I'm going to paint a picture
Yeah.
and then we're going to get into the discussion. I often tell people, some of these stats whenever they ask me to talk about what's happening in the media space. According to SANEF, which is the South African National Editors Forum, in 2010, you have roughly 10,000 professionals in the newsroom in South Africa. Just before COVID, that number has dropped to 4,500, which is a 55% attrition rate. When Daily Maverick is retrenching, I can't remember if must have been in 24, somewhere there. I think they were cutting roughly 15 or so percent of their workforce at the time. They give us an update, to say that they actually, by their estimates, the 55% attrition is actually closer now to 70% of people, that have left the newsroom. So the irony of that is that you have much smaller newsrooms, a smaller news industry, but you have people that are consuming way more,
Yeah.
news media at the moment. So my question is just more about, based on that picture, and you've experienced a little bit, of all of this. If you are advising a young person, a good place for us to start is freelance or starting your own outfit.
Okay, so that's a complicated question, and I'm going to answer like a politician. But your picture does not point where we are now, which is the closure of City Press,
Yes.
which is the sort of the big publications, big newsrooms getting smaller and smaller in South Africa every year. And so what you're seeing here is that there was this kind of euphoria in the .com era where everything's going to be digital and everything's going to be fast and everything's going to be free. And there was no payoff for that because the tech industry cannibalized the news industry in some way. But at the same time, the news media has refused to evolve and to change the way things are going, right? And it was a shrugging of the shoulders to say that, audiences don't want news, people are not consuming in the same way, but they kept forcing the same medicine down everyone's throat, right? So what does that look like? It looks like complete and out-of-touch editors who don't live in real societies of where things happen. And so you'd read the lifestyle pages and you're like, where do these people live? And then an over obsession with newsmakers and with politicians. And so and then it became a thing of we speak down to you, we're not or at you, we're not speaking to you. And just think about why people don't watch television. Why do you not watch television in the way that you used to, probably, right? And so I used myself as a case study and I said, okay, I grew up in media, news media. I was 17 when I started.
Wow.
I was obsessed on the time I think I was 8 years old with news media, with newspapers. I pay for news. I subscribe. I watch. I read. I'm
You're inside.
I'm inside. I'm cunt. But the point is, I was consuming less and less. Sundays would go by and I wouldn't purchase the newspaper as I would or read it. I wouldn't. To watch a primetime news bulletin became rare and rare and rare. And essentially, as someone who is so hooked up on the news, I started consuming less traditional or / professional journalism and inevitably consuming bite-sized information through social media, right? And I thought, okay, if I'm getting 80% of my news on the war in Gaza through social media, for example, fast forward 2 years, I'm getting at least 60 to 70% of my updates on the biggest commission at the moment, the Madlaga Commission, through social media. Now, this says something. What about the person who's not engaged? What about the person who is just overwhelmed by the news? And you have a huge phenomenon called news avoidance. Now, the thing about news avoidance, we can blame the politics of the day, we can blame the news of the day, but news avoidance also has there's some responsibility that we have to bear. Are we giving people things they don't want to hear? And in a way they're not comfortable with? Compound that with the fact that there is a whole generation where consumption of traditional/professional journalism is foreign to them.
Yeah.
Go ask a matriculant, where do they get their news from? And they'll be like, huh?
What news?
What news? Right?
Okay.
And so you perpetuate, what we're doing is we're complaining and complaining and complaining. And what is happening is you just move from one retrenchment cycle to the next retrenchment cycle to the next retrenchment cycle.
Yeah.
Someone as long as me in the media industry, I've seen it all, right? This shutdown, this thing, this new excitement, this, that. And I realized, okay, there's two ways to do it. Remember, I come from politics and investigation.
Yeah.
That space is thriving. I'm very good at my job. I can go do this full time. But what am I doing? I am basically buying time until the next retrenchment cycle. And then, oopsie, you're unlucky and you're out of a job because they had to shrink newsrooms even further.
Yeah.
And that's when I took a decision about 2 years ago to say, I need to solve for what the future of journalism is, because I feel deeply for this industry. And, it frustrates me to no end, as it frustrates many professional journalists, that you do the hard work. You go to the mine, you go find this information, you piece together, you speak to family members in the middle of, I don't know, Garankuwa, somewhere far, and then a podcaster takes your headline, repurposes it, says it in the most amazing way, and gets 1 million views on that video.
Yeah.
And eventually can monetize it.
Yeah.
So newsrooms are frustrated by this phenomenon because news is expensive and people are not willing to pay for news. So my thing is, we can continue fighting and shouting, but if value is demonstrated, if people don't see value in your product, too bad, right? So now the question was, what do you do?